the meeting to order, and we will start by going around and introducing ourselves. But before we do that, I'm going to take the privilege of the chairmanship and introduce our new city engineer and head of a newly constructed engineering department in the city of Albany, who will introduce himself as he goes around. But Howard, welcome and thank you for being here. Kathy Sheehan, Mayor of the City of Albany.
Mike Arthur, DOT Regional Director, Capital Region.
Tom Bazil, City TA.
Greg Wixer, Region 1 Program Manager.
Michael Stamlin, Mayor for City Wind.
Linda Vonderheide representing Steve McLaughlin, Russell County Executive.
Ben Fisher, Planner with FHWA.
Julia Shivers, Engineer with Federal Highway.
Rory Kluman, Schenectady County Manager.
Bill Barrett, Chairman, Saratoga County Board of Supervisors.
Gary McCarthy, City of Schenectady.
Mark Castiglione, representing Larry Schillinger from CDRPC.
Sandy Miswitz, Executive Director of the Transportation Council.
Tess Strashak, staff of the Transportation Council.
Chris Bauer, Transportation Council staff.
Jacob Beeman, Transportation Council. Howard Noble, City of Albany.
Don Matamore, DOT Main Office. Bob Rice, near DOT Region 1.
And I'm Jim Bonney. I'm in the Project Management Office at Department of Transportation.
Great.
I'll just read through who's listening remotely. We have Stephen Maples from the Transportation Council, Andrew Preshek from the City of Troy, Connor Haskin from the Albany Airport Authority, Ken Lambert, Saratoga County, Michael Lally, Albany County, Pat Collins, Albany County Legislature, Bill Serafino from the Waterway Authority, and Joe Lasavita from City of Waterville, and two late ads, Virginia Bott from Rensselaer County, and Chris Wallen from the City of Schenectady.
Great. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for agreeing to this extra meeting. We're going to get to the business at hand, but first it's the privilege of the floor. I don't believe we have anyone here to speak, but we do have a comment that was sent in.
Yes, Steve Strauss, the Executive Director of the Empire State Passenger Rail Association, wanted to just make this comment. I'm told that the access ramps to the pedestrian bicycle crossing portion of the bridge, Livingston Avenue Bridge, obviously we're talking about, involve acquisition of privately held land or easements. Is the state going to wait until all the land acquisition work is completed before starting the bridge construction, or will it advance to bridge construction while the property acquisition proceeds on a parallel path? With construction inflation remaining quite high, time delays continue to add to the project cost. I'll just put that for the record.
Great, thanks. And so now we're going to have a presentation on the Livingston Avenue Bridge update. Jim, take it away.
All right. Thanks again. So again, I'm Jim Bonney. I'm in our Department of Transportation Project Management Office. We handle all the alternative procurement projects, including the Livingston Avenue Bridge. So I think we all know where this is, but just to refresh our memories, it's a bridge that crosses the Hudson River right between the Dunn Memorial and the Patroon Island, between the two cities, Albany and Rensselaer. Couple shots of the bridge highlighting the swing span. You can see the two towers, and that span between is the span that swings to let boats through. Just a little orientation here. So this is kind of a view if you're up in the Corning Tower looking down towards the bridge. On the Rensselaer side, immediately adjacent to the bridge is the Amtrak facility. You got the Livingston Avenue Bridge crossing the river, and then on the Albany side, we've got quite a bit going on. We got 787, the Mohawk Hudson Bike Hike Trail, the Corning Preserve. You got Quay Street, Water Street, Center Street, the Skyway, and the lovely Central Warehouse. As far
Another conversation.
That's a whole separate conversation. As far as the existing bridge goes, it was built for New York Central Railroad back in the early 1900s. It actually uses abutments and piers from Civil War era, 1860s. As I mentioned, there's the two steel frame towers. Those are about 152 feet above mean high water, flanking the swing span. So those really draw your eye. Railroad facts. So CSX owns the bridge. Amtrak controls it under a long-term lease. and they also operate it in terms of maintenance and everything else that goes with that. And it does serve both passenger and freight rail. Uh-oh, it's not
Are you
clicking.
there? Let me help you out.
Yeah, just go ahead.
Please, I'm here. Hold on just a second.
All right, as far as the scope of the project, we're obviously gonna be replacing the bridge approximately 50 feet south of the existing. It's gonna be a vertical lift span rather than swing span. On the Rensselaer side, we're gonna be realigning some of the Y tracks to accommodate that alignment shift. Over in Albany, there's also gonna be a little bit of a very minor alignment change, and we'll be tying in right near the central warehouse. As far as the shared use path, there's gonna be a shared use path on the south side of the bridge. It's going to basically connect from the Skyway over to the trail system that's gonna be built, as part of that trail system is gonna be built part of this project over in Rensselaer. What else we got here? So going back to this view here, I'm just gonna walk through some of the highlights. So the red is essentially the new alignment. You can see it's just south of the existing bridge. You can see the Y track over on the right side, over on Rensselaer. The limits of those lines are pretty much the limit of the work for the railroad at both ends. And over on the left edge of the screen, you can see where it ties in right by the central warehouse. This green line represents the portion of the multi-use trail that will be constructed as part of this project. Basically tying in at the south end where there's the existing way that ends currently down at Delay's Landing. And then up to the north, we'll just be going just north of the existing bridge for now. And then we have the shared use path that's going to be built on the south side of the new bridge, tying in at the Skyway on the left or in Albany. And basically the shared use path will go over to multi-use trail in Rensselaer and then swing around to tie into or tee into the multi-use trail. The second phase of the multi-use trail would be constructed in a later phase. These are some renderings. They're a bit dated at this point, but these were the renderings used during the public hearing. So this is like a bird's eye view from Rensselaer looking over towards Albany. You can see the shared use path on the south side of the new bridge, how it goes over the multi-use trail and swings around. It'll tie in just off to the screen to the left. And obviously you can see the towers for the lift span. This is a view from more of the Albany side, kind of highlighting the same features. The shared use path will tie into the Skyway. I can't really point to it, but it'll tie in just under 787 there. And you know, you can obviously see the span that's going to be the lift span. Here's the lift span. Of note here is, you know, on top of the lift span is a mechanical house. That's where all the mechanisms for the lift structure will be. And then you've got the towers on either side. Obviously, those towers have to be strong enough to hold that bridge up and lift it up and down. I will note the fendering system in the water here is pretty substantial. It probably will not look like that. During the procurement, all the teams that were pursuing this did want to incorporate stronger piers that could take any impacts. So we are going to be scaling that down quite a bit. You won't have those big clunky concrete piers at either end with the funny looking fencing, if you will. As far as a cross section, this is basically from Rensselaer looking towards Albany. You got the shared use path on the left or south side, shows the mechanical house up on the lift span, and it will have 2 tracks down the center. This is just a slide kind of showing the internal works in the mechanical house. It shows all the mechanical gearing and, the electrical and communication systems that are gonna be required, for operating that. That's a whole separate conversation or PowerPoint to get into all the ins and outs of that system, but it's a pretty complicated system. As far as where we are currently, this is our procurement schedule. We're pretty far through that at this point. We're actually at the point where we're close to award. We've been through the entire procurement. We've worked with 3 teams that were shortlisted to pursue the project, and we are getting close to the award. These bullets just kind of highlight a likely bridge schedule, just to kind of give you an idea of timing. We do have a pretty intense environmental restriction on this project. We can't work in the water from like March to October. So we have to find some workarounds. One of those is there's going to be some in-water borings done in February, so that will guide the designated team in their final design. So in March, there will be some tree removals over on the Rensselaer side within the project limits. And then the design builder would initiate their mobilization. They'd get their additional studies and testing that they need to basically be able to do their final design. And they'd be working on their permitting. By, summer or fall, that's when we'll actually start seeing some construction. They would most likely get going on their abutments for the new bridge at that point in time. In October, when the environmental restriction gets lifted, and that environmental restriction is for the sturgeon. It's short nose and Atlantic sturgeon that come all the way up to this area. So it's basically spawning season, and we have to be very careful about what's happening in the river. In October, that's when we'll actually be able to get started in the river with piers. And it's gonna be tough construction for them. A lot of the work is gonna be happening in the winter. They will be able to get themselves set up over the winter so that they will be able to get set up in locations and be able to do work in the summer months. But the moving of barges and such is gonna be pretty limited in the summer months. By spring of 26, that's when most likely, again, that's probably when we'll start seeing some steel erection on the bridge. And that'll keep going until, probably fall of 27. The table on the right is some of the required contract milestones. So they have to have 1 track open on the new bridge by the end of 27. Both tracks have to be open by May 1st of 28. With substantial completion by July 1st of 28 and project completion by August 31st of 28. As far as maintaining traffic and stuff, there's not a lot of impacts here because most of the work is in the river and on railroad property. But, we do have some of the local streets, Quay, Water and Center Street. Any closures of those roads would be limited to nighttime work. They'd obviously have to have appropriate detours in place. As far as the trail in Albany, there's a provision in the contract that has to remain open at all times and can only be closed when the adjacent Quay Street is closed and an accessible detour is provided. So we made it a very critical aspect of the contract that trail should remain intact throughout construction. So we've worked with the Coast Guard, and we are allowing a 2-week closure of the entire navigational channel. That will likely occur in October. And that is going to be primarily when they are going to be lifting in the final truss segment for the bridge and removing the existing truss segment at the location of the new lift span. So we're giving them 2 weeks to lift a segment in and take a segment out. It's a very strategic and critical move there, but we have to get that done at a certain point in time. And then there's a temporary channel is allowed for 30 days max for demolition of the existing pier in the middle of the river. And that's also the location of the new lift span. So that'll be at a point in time where the new lift span is working and the old section of truss in that same location is removed. So we will have the full vertical clearance at that location at that point in time for that 30 days. So again, really just a 2-week closure where there's no vertical, there's limited vertical clearance. That's all I have. Any questions?
Actually, I do.
Sure.
I'm looking at putting a trail between the cities of Troy and Rensselaer, so what is the timing for the pedestrian thing? Is that about the 2028, or is that earlier than that?
Yeah, so I mean, we have to work with the city on, finalizing the details for that northern phase of the trail.
Mhm.
But the trail we're building will be done in that 2028 timeframe.
Okay.
Yeah.
We understand the city, as soon as the footprint's free again.
Yep.
And I understand they intend to let phase 2 of their project to get to the Hilton boat launch.
Okay,
That's how I understand it. Yes, they're gonna follow as fast as they can.
Great. I mean, the earliest that could potentially happen is in 2028.
well, it's gonna take a while to go down too, because it's a bigger segment that's 3 miles, so.
Yeah.
And have you decided where the access is going to be on the Tracy Street access to get into the bridge or through the Amtrak road?
So both. We actually are acquiring a couple temporary easements to the north.
Okay.
There used to be a power line that ran down from Tracy Street down towards the bridge. That is gonna be an access way for the contractor, but they'll also be able to use the Amtrak property to access, so. We are gonna have a bit of a staging area Sandy, can you go back to one of those aerial views? Might be easiest if you escape out, or either way.
Sorry.
Just before these renderings, I think. Yeah, right here. So basically, just north of where that Y track is on the Rensselaer side.
Yep.
That area is part of that is state land, and we're gonna be clearing it for the contractor as a staging area. So I'm envisioning there will be some access from the north, but they're also gonna be accessing from Amtrak property as well, so.
I would just request more access from the north. That would make our trail a lot easier.
Yeah.
When it's time for construction.
Yeah, understood.
And in reference to the letter that was sent, acquisition of property, when do you expect that process to take place?
Yeah, so actually, by the end of this month, the majority of the property will be acquired for the project. We do have a couple purchases that we're working on with the railroad.
Okay.
Basically on, the Rensselaer side, but those will not affect construction because we'll have a construction agreement with the railroad to be able to start work. So those are more longer term, straighten out property issues.
Yeah, there's a few of them there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, we're gonna be in good shape by the end of this month to start construction.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Sure.
Long awaited.
Yeah.
That's all I can say is, 20 years ago, I was at this table, and did a press conference with, Senator Schumer down there and trying to get this project along. I worked for Amtrak for over 41 years in safety, and, that bridge has always been a concern for not only, me as a, employee when I worked for Amtrak, but also as somebody who's, represented the city of Rensselaer. That Livingston Avenue Bridge, is still a walkway, whether we like it or not. They took away the walkway on the bridge, but the people now just walk down the tracks. I didn't see the philosophy in that, but that's what they did. So, and they still do it today. So it was a long welcoming overdue, and I look forward to having that branch to reach over to the Corning Preserve and be able to transfer back and forth for both communities. I think it'd be it'd be very good for the capital region.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is gonna create a regional attraction.
I agree.
And, you know, the state, and the New York State Department of Transportation, I want to give kudos to, had the foresight to realize that the Skyway was just a link in a chain of what could be. And so, being able to have amenities on both sides and the opportunity to, do things together, I think it's really, this is
It's a good thing.
a long time coming, and, I have yet to hear from a constituent who doesn't want this and doesn't want it, you know, tomorrow, so.
And as soon as that, central warehouse disappears, we're leaving them back.
That's right. So we need a motion to approve the amendment to the river, we're gonna start with the trail
Yeah.
project.
Greg, are you gonna handle the presentation of the
Yeah.
minutes?
Okay.
So the first one, they're related, they're separate but related, obviously. You know, City of Rensselaer has progressed their trail project along through design approval into a stage of right-of-way acquisition that essentially the southern piece of the trail shown in the presentation, is ready for construction through all the environmental processes. And, in the interest of efficiency and, you know, while we're there, since it's gonna have such an impact on the footprint, we're gonna incorporate their project into ours, which solves a few problems. It helps city out for getting half the trail built. And, it also incorporates federal aid into the, larger Livingston Avenue project. We chased a few avenues, we incorporate federal aid, it's technicalities I won't get into, but it helps the project along. So, it's a mutually beneficial amendment here. Progress their half of the trail, or half of their trail. Are there any questions regarding this? And let's,
Greg, I mean, just to add to what Greg had said, traditionally, you see, we combine projects at letting all the time like that, and they'll go out under one bid. But because the environmental processes were different, the Livingston Ave Bridge was done under the FRA rules. And that project was done under federal highway provisions. So technically, that's why there's two separate amendments here for two different projects. They're going to be under the same deconstruction contract, but that's why they're still a little bit different than we had traditionally done, where we would just put them under one pin at this point. But it's because they took two different environmental paths for each project that they're still distinct, that we're presenting in this one.
thank you.
Can I have a motion to approve the amendment?
I'd like to make that motion, please.
I think you're gonna second it. I think it's only appropriate. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great. Okay,
All right, second amendment is the big one, the Livingston Avenue Bridge itself. We are putting this, it's really, you know, being state funds, and comes to the table to be added to the tip as a illustrative project, a long identified in the long range plan here, so we're bringing it forward with state funds to add it to the tip of the capital district and showing all of this together, and again, as part of the equation to have all this move forwards. This is, the other action is to show the Livingston Avenue Bridge project, fully funded here and moving forward to construction, because we're, as you saw in the presentation, we're eager to award. I'd like to make a motion to, award, make this, Livingston Avenue Bridge part of the TIPS project as announced.
I'd like to second it.
I love that, thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right.
Well, with that really is our agenda. There's some other notes, obviously, but if anybody has anything else they would like to share while we're all gathered today?
No, I would just like to thank the CDTC, obviously not anywhere, but.
Legacy.
I've been here, we've been here for a while, but for all the hard work and, you know, I've been here for a number of years and I've always brought this subject up and there was something that I think needed to be done and we carried that $50,000 around for the original design forever, but we never seen anything come from it. Now we're seeing something come from it, and I'd like to thank your pursuit as well as the whole organization and the collaboration between Albany and Rensselaer in order to make this happen. Thank you.
Thanks.
We appreciate the special meeting to get this over the plate with some urgency. We've explored various ways to get federal aid on here, and this solves all the problems, and we appreciate the special meeting.
Thank everybody.
Yes, thank you so much. Any other business?
Move we adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I made myself an